July 2nd, 1955. New York City is suffocating under a humid midsummer haze. At Idlewild Airport, the place we now call JFK, a Douglas DC-4 bearing the iconic blue globe of Pan American World Airways sits on the tarmac, Flight 914. Its destination, Miami, Florida. On board are 57 passengers. They are the faces of the American dream. Men in crisp linen suits, women with perfectly set hair, children clutching comic books and toy planes. For them, this is a routine 3-hour hop to the Sunshine State. The 4 crew members, led by a captain with thousands of flight hours, perform their pre-flight checks with the rhythmic precision of a ticking clock. To them, the sky is a known map, a safe, predictable blue. At 9:55 a.m., the engines roar to life. The rhythmic thrum of the 4 propellers creates a vibration that rattles the windows of the terminal. The tower gives the clear. Flight 914 lifts off, banking over the Atlantic, its silver wings catching the sun one last time. But somewhere over the vast, indifferent blue of the ocean, the clock didn't just stop, it broke. 3 hours into the flight, the Miami towers began their scan. The radar sweep was rhythmic, constant, and then it wasn't. There was no flash, no distress signal, no frantic mayday cutting through the static, just a void. Flight 914 hadn't crashed, it had simply been edited out of existence. In a single frame of reality, the aircraft was there, and in the next, the Atlantic was empty. The ensuing search was the largest in maritime history at the time. No debris, no oil slicks, no floating luggage. 61 souls erased. For the families waiting in Miami, the sun went down that day and stayed down for 37 years. May 21st, 1992. Caracas, Venezuela. The Maiquetía Airport is a hub of modern efficiency. High-frequency radars, digital displays, and the constant shriek of jet engines. Juan de la Corte, a veteran air traffic controller, was monitoring a routine morning shift when a ghost appeared on his screen. It wasn't a blip, it was an anomaly. An aircraft appeared from nowhere, deep within the restricted airspace, moving at a speed that modern computers found insulting. Juan looked through his binoculars, expecting a stray Cessna. Instead, he saw a relic, a silver Douglas DC-4 gleaming in the tropical sun, as if it had just rolled off the assembly line in 1950. No rust, no wear, just a haunting, pristine silver. The radio crackled. The voice that came through wasn't digital. It was thin, analog, and trembling with a specific kind of confusion. "Where are we?" the pilot asked. Not who are we, but where. When Juan identified the airport as Caracas, there was a long, suffocating silence. "We are Pan American Airways Flight 914, the voice returned. "Scheduled for Miami. Departure July 2nd, 1955. The tower went cold. In that moment, 37 years of history, the moon landing, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the birth of the digital age, didn't exist for the man on the other end of that radio. He was still waiting to land in a world that had moved on without him. The DC-4 touched down on runway 4. As it taxied toward the gate, the ground crew stood paralyzed. They weren't looking at a plane, they were looking at a time capsule. Juan de la Corte walked out onto the tarmac, the heat radiating off the asphalt. He could see the faces in the small rectangular windows. The passengers were pressed against the glass. They weren't screaming. They were staring at the ground crew's neon vests, the massive Boeing jets in the distance, and the handheld radios with a look of absolute soul-crushing terror. To them, the world had turned into a science fiction nightmare in the span of a few hours. The pilot opened his window. He looked younger than his voice, a man in his 30s, his cap tilted back, sweat beading on his forehead. Juan held up a newspaper. The headline was 1992. "Don't come any closer," the pilot screamed, his eyes darting frantically. He looked at the digital watch on Juan's wrist as if it were an alien artifact. "We're leaving. We don't belong here." In the chaos, a small yellowed piece of paper fluttered out of the cockpit window and drifted to the tarmac. A calendar fragment. July 1955. As the pilot throttled the engines, the sound wasn't just mechanical. It was the sound of a desperate animal trying to escape a trap. The propellers tore through the 1992 air, and before the security teams could reach the runway, the Silver Ghost was airborne again. What happens to a soul when it is caught in the gears of the universe? At Vanish Point, we don't look for simple answers. We look for the 404 errors of reality. Theoretical physics speaks of time dilation and Einstein-Rosen bridges, but those are just mathematical masks for a deeper horror. Think of reality as a film reel. Occasionally a frame is damaged, a sliver of time is skipped. Flight 914 didn't travel through time, it fell through it. It entered the in-between, a place where the sun never sets because there is no sun, a place where the engines hum but the fuel never burns. For the pilot and his 57 passengers, the flight was 3 hours of strange turbulence and a sky that turned a shade of blue that doesn't exist in our spectrum. They didn't age because time is a requirement of our dimension, and they had left ours. When they reappeared in Caracas, they were a foreign body being rejected by the now. The universe corrected its mistake by taking them back. But back to where? To 1955? Or to the infinite loop of that 3-hour flight, forever circling a Miami that no longer has a place for them? The calendar fragment left on the tarmac was analyzed. The paper was chemically identical to 1955 stock, yet it showed 0 signs of aging, no yellowing, no brittle edges. It was as fresh as the day it was printed. In the years following the Caracas incident, stories began to surface. Elderly men and women in Miami reported receiving strange, brief phone calls in the middle of the night. A son's voice, unchanged by time, saying, "Dad, we're hitting some clouds. We'll be home soon." Then, nothing but the roar of wind and the hum of propellers. Flight 914 remains the ultimate ghost story of the jet age. It reminds us that our grip on the present is fragile. We fly across oceans, trusting in physics and flight plans, oblivious to the fact that the sky is a vast, hungry void that occasionally forgets its own rules. Somewhere, in a sky we cannot see, 61 people are still looking for a runway that hasn't been built yet. They are the eternal passengers of the 404 flight. And as you look up at the stars tonight, listen closely. If you hear the faint rhythmic thrum of propellers where there should only be silence, don't look for a light, Some things are better left lost in the Vanish Point.